I myself view kind of this 3 days period as a 3 day period as a process when brain maybe in a way tries to reorganize itself because of the trauma. People often make maybe wrong decisions later in their life, and when the trauma is resolved, certain events from the later lives they kind of reassess them, maybe even relationships, the choices they made, and that also probably one part of the process during these 3 days. Yeah? Would it be correct to say to like have this interpretation, understanding of 3 days?
Uh, okay, so when someone goes through the new decision therapy process and they've released these emotions related to the trauma or traumas, because there can be repeated traumas as a result of the first one, then this is just like, in some respects, can be like the tip of the iceberg. So in new decision therapy, Kandis talked about, and I have experienced and seen it in retrospect in myself firsthand, that when a person goes through a trauma, they're usually in like a kind of emotional arrest or pause mode emotionally. So even though, like, so for instance, I'll take myself as an example. 43 years old, hit a wall, spent 20 years, searching, looking for different ways to solve. Didn't find the solution until new decision therapy. Read numerous books, had all sorts of wisdoms, couldn't put any of it into place. But it was like the floodgates opened up, and all of the wisdoms and the things that I had collected and how to do things more effectively, it was like the door had been opened and I could now put into practice what I had learned. But does it happen all at once, overnight, in one day? No. It's day by day, step by step. There is a kind of learning that begins to unfold by the very nature of having opened the floodgates of healing. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
So I was a little bit naive in the beginning. After my first sessions of new decision therapy, I felt so marvelously better. And I was overly optimistic about how everything was going to unfold for me now in terms of love relationships. The truth of the matter is you begin from where you left off, and then you begin to walk forward. So I was beginning from my emotional arrest of a 14-year-old. Yes? And so the next relationship that I went into, that's where I began from. But everything unfolds very quickly. So I did go through it with my eyes open. It wasn't the right person yet. But I went through it with my eyes open. And I often say, well, before new decision therapy, I probably would have ended up married to the person with children and wondering why I was so miserable. But because I had gone through new decision therapy, I didn't know how to stop myself from certain things because I hadn't walked the path enough yet. But I knew to put an end to it much earlier. And I was able to do that from a place of strength and also from a place of love rather than anger. And I talked about that earlier too, that is something that new decision therapy helps to open up, that world of possibility where we can continue to keep our hearts open and make the right decisions along the way. Because there's this common idea that we're not going to take proper action unless like we just bear in and fuel ourselves with anger and shut the door on the other person and call them a piece of scum and ooh, isn't he an awful person and look what he did and I'm just going to remember all of that so I can keep him away, right? No, because anger is like poison. In fact, there's this saying, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and then expecting the other person to die.
That's a good one.
So new decision therapy opens the doorway of a new way and more enlightened way of moving on.